Welcome to the second tutorial on submitting fixed data. Let's look at Fixed Voice Subscription, FVS, from the Fixed Voice Subscription page, ILEC or non-ILEC. Navigate to the subscription page and select either ILEC or non-ILEC. Before we get started, a quick note about Fixed Voice Subscription data. Fixed Voice Subscription, FVS data is separated into two subtypes, Incumbent Local Exchange Carrier, known as ILEC, and non-ILEC. If you're an ILEC provider, you're required to submit Fixed Voice Subscription data. And if that data is missing, the subscription data page will display a required icon in the status column for Fixed Voice Subscription, ILEC. You can return to the entity information page to update your ILEC status if needed. Once all of your fixed broadband subscription data has been submitted and validated, you'll need to submit Fixed Voice Subscription data, entering the FVS data row by row at the track level within the Data Entry tab, which is located at the top of the FVS page next to the Upload Files tab. Once all your data has been uploaded at the track level, users will need to enter state-level data for both local exchange telephone subscriptions and interconnected VoIP, Voice over Internet Protocol, subscriptions. Subscription data must pass a series of validation checks before it can be accepted into the BDC system. For FVS data, you should have unique combinations of census tract and service type. Duplicate records occur when the same combination is entered in more than one row. A method for finding duplicates within a file, if needed, is to sort by census tract and service type, and then look for any columns that have the same entry repeated across rows. You can now click on FVS File Upload from the Fixed Voice Subscription page. This allows you to upload a CSV or TXT file with their Fixed Voice Subscription FVS data. These files must follow a specific format that must be adhered to, or else the upload will be rejected by the system. ILEC users can upload both ILEC data and non-ILEC data, while non-ILEC users will only have the option to submit non-ILEC data. To begin the file upload process, click the Browse button. Next, select the file or files you wish to upload. You can select multiple files to upload at the same time, and after you've selected at least one valid file, the file name and file size will appear on the page. The system will also display a status message for each file, as well as a trash can icon that will allow you to delete a file if you wish to do so. To begin the upload process, click the Upload button. After clicking Upload, the uploaded files will populate the bottom of the page. This table will consist of your file name or file names, the date of the upload, and the status for each file. Similarly to FBS, as your file is processing, you'll see one of two statuses. Processing virus check 1 of 2 means this initial process confirms the file is passing the FCC's virus scan. If the file fails to pass the virus check, the error message will be displayed and the file will not be accepted into the system. Processing validations 2 of 2 means that the file passes the virus scan. The BDC application will ensure that the data in the file is valid. There are multiple validations that the system checks for, including correct column counts, duplicate data checks, and invalid data. If your file passes both the virus scan and the validation checks, the system will display a status of complete with a green checkmark. This means that the data you've uploaded is valid and has been accepted into the system. If the file you've uploaded fails any of the validation checks, the system will show a red status of validation errors, as well as a count of the number of errors. There will also be an expandable View Details link that will allow you to view the validation errors and the row count in which the error occurred within your file. If your file contains any validation errors, you'll be unable to progress further through the system. You will need to fix any errors and re-upload your file. Once your file displays a green status of complete, you'll also be required to enter the state-level data for each state covered by the submitted tract-level data, and the list of states will dynamically appear on the left side of the page under the state-level data column. In the example shown, a CSV file was uploaded that contained tract-level data for Alabama, so Alabama appeared dynamically on the left side of the page. You'll need to submit state-level data for every state that is included in your FVS submission. This will be elaborated on later in our demonstration. Alternatively, you can select the Manual Data Entry button from the Data Entry tab. This allows users to enter their FVS data manually on a row-by-row basis. You'll need to fill out the following fields to successfully submit your FVS data. State, county, and tract are the same as with FBS. Service type indicates the type of voice service counted in this row record. VGE lines for local exchange telephone services or VoIP subscriptions for interconnected VoIP services. VGE lines or VoIP subscriptions. If you've selected BGE lines for the service type, enter the number of voice grade equivalent lines and voice grade equivalent wireless channels in service in the census tract. If you've selected VoIP subscriptions for the service type, enter the number of VoIP subscriptions provided in the census tract. Consumer BGE lines or VoIP subscriptions. If you selected BGE lines for the service type, enter the number of voice grade equivalent lines and voice grade equivalent wireless channels provided in the consumer grade service plans in the census tract. If you selected VoIP subscriptions for the service type, enter the number of VoIP subscriptions provided in consumer grade service plans in the census tract. A consumer service plan or mass market consumer service plan is a service plan designed for, marketed to, or purchased by primarily residential end users. Business government VGE lines or VoIP subscriptions. You don't enter any value in this field because it's automatically calculated as a difference between total VGE lines or VoIP subscriptions and consumer VGE lines and VoIP subscriptions. Once valid information has been entered for each field, you can save the data by clicking the Save Row button. After clicking Save Row, a table will be created on the page displaying the data you have submitted. You can continue adding as many rows to this table as you need. Each row of data should have a unique combination of state, county, census tract, and service type. Duplicate data checks are performed for each row entered manually, as well as against any files that have been uploaded as CSV or TXT file. Once your file displays a green status of complete, you'll also be required to enter the state-level data for each state covered by the submitted tract-level data, and the list of required states will dynamically appear on the left side of the page under the state-level data column. Depending on the data you've added, you may see state-level local exchange telephone from the state-level data tab. The BDC system sums the tract-level data you entered to find the total number of VGE lines in each state for which you've reported data. The states will be presented in alphabetical order, with each state being clickable on the left side of the page under State-Level Data column. There is a validations checklist at the top of the page displaying each of the steps you'll need to complete in order to successfully submit your local exchange telephone subscription data. As you satisfy the steps in the list, each red X will dynamically update to a green checkmark. This is an example of what a user may see upon their first visit to the page. For the Allocate Lines Provided to Unaffiliated Providers field, since no data on these lines were entered at the tract level, you'll need to report two separate numbers. 1. The number of wholesale service lines, and 2. The number of unbundled network element loops, UNEL, that you, including your affiliates, provided to unaffiliated service providers. The Allocate Lines Provided to End Users section includes several fields. First, the By Services Sold field is when the total is populated based on the tract data you've already entered. For Voice with Internet, the number of lines for which you, including affiliates, sell voice and broadband internet access service to the same end user or customer. It does not matter if the two services are billed separately or if they're billed by different affiliates. To satisfy the validation checklist at the top of the page, the total must equal the sum of Voice with Internet and Voice without Internet. Another section is By Product Type, where the total, consumer total, and business government total have been populated based on the tract data you've previously submitted. You must allocate both consumer total and business government total between lines for which you are the PIC, pre-subscribed interstate long-distance carrier, and lines for which you are not the PIC. To satisfy the validation checklist at the top of the page, consumer total must equal the sum of consumer and no PIC and consumer and PIC, while business government total must equal the sum of business government and no PIC and business government and PIC. In the section By Ownership, you must show how your total lines are divided between lines that are terminate and the end user's premises over last mile facilities that you, including affiliates, are owned, obtained from unaffiliated privers as UNELs, or resold, resale. To satisfy the validation checklist at the top of the page, total must equal the sum of owned, UNEL, and resale. In the section By Last Mile Medium, you're required to allocate total lines based on the last mile technology in use at the end user's premises. If you do not have any lines in service over a particular technology, enter 0. To satisfy the validation checklist at the top of the page, total must equal the sum of FTTP, coaxial cable, fixed wireless, and copper. When you've finished your local telephone exchange service entries for a particular state, you will see that each item in the validations checklist at the top of the page has dynamically updated from a red X to a green checkmark. You may also see state-level interconnected VoIP from the State-Level Data tab. If your track data contains interconnected VoIP subscriptions, you're required to enter state-level data for those subscriptions. To access the interconnected VoIP subscriptions page, you'll need to click on the state name in the state-level data column, then click on the Interconnected VoIP Subscriptions, or iVoIP tab at the top of the page. For each state, you're required to allocate over-the-top iVoIP subscriptions where you provide service to end users without also supplying last-mile facilities between consumer and business government subscribers. You're also required to allocate all other iVoIP subscriptions where you provide service to end users and supply last-mile facilities by A, end user type, B, services sold, and C, last-mile medium. There is also a validations checklist at the top of the page displaying each of the steps you'll need to complete to successfully submit your interconnect VoIP subscriptions data. As you satisfy the steps in the list, each red X will dynamically update to a green checkmark. In the track level data, the BDC interface has grouped the total number of subscriptions by end user type, consumer versus business government. At the top of the screen for each state, the system will show you the grand total numbers of total consumer and business government subscriptions you've entered in your track level data. These numbers are read-only and are contained within fields shaded in gray. If these numbers do not look correct, you'll need to return to the fixed voice subscription interactive data entry or file upload pages and make changes to your track data. In addition to allocating all other subscriptions by end user type, you'll need to allocate these subscriptions by services sold and by last mile medium. To allocate by services sold, enter in the Voice with Internet the number of subscriptions where you, including affiliates, sell voice and broadband internet access service to the same end user customer. It does not matter if the two services are billed separately or if they're billed to different affiliates. To allocate by last mile medium, remember that all other subscriptions are subscriptions for which you, including affiliates, also supply the end user with high capacity connection that delivers the interconnected VoIP service. That high-capacity connection could be last-mile facilities that you own, or it could be last-mile facilities that you lease from an unaffiliated entity. In either case, count these subscriptions according to the technology of the high-capacity connection that terminates at the end user's location. As shown, if the list of items still displays red X's, you will not be able to save the state and proceed. When you finish your interconnected VoIP subscription entries for a particular state, click the Save State button. If you have another state's information to add, then click the relevant state on the left-hand side of the page, which will have a red X next to the state name, to proceed to the next state. For each state you complete, the state name will display a green checkmark in the state-level data column. Once all of your subscription data has been submitted and validated, don't forget to upload your availability data next. Please check out our video, Submitting Fixed Availability and Fixed Supporting Data, to learn more about the process.